Welcome to Community Watch, and today we're talking about wine and a particular winery here in Georgia. Stay with us. Community Watch starts now.
Welcome to Community Watch. Greg, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, brother. And yourself?
Well, I'm all right. I'm ready for my fist bump here.
Gotcha. This is one of your shows today, just by the way.
You know, I had a feeling you were going to say that because I do like wine. And we're talking about wine today. But I also know that you have certainly broadened your experiences in that regard. I guess one of these days we're going to have to do a show about a bourbon distributor, and then you'll get really comfortable with that.
Yeah.
But I think you'll have plenty to talk about in today's show. But we are talking about wine and a particular winery called the Painted Horse, and we have the owner with us today, Pamela Jackson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Well, I wanted to ask, lately, and understandably, we have been doing a lot of shows about how the pandemic has affected our community in a lot of different ways. Painted Horse now is in northeast Georgia, is that right?
And in Milton, Georgia, which is just a little north of Alpharetta, if you know where that is, a suburb of Atlanta.
All right. And I am guessing, you'll have to tell us, but I'm guessing that a winery has some unique challenges, like many smaller businesses do, dealing with some of the pandemic issues. So I was just wondering how, if at all, the pandemic has affected your business.
Well, of course, it affected my business just like it has affected everybody else, but it hasn't affected it horribly because we are a farm and we are considered an essential business. Farms have to keep going, so they can't stop. So we continue to farm and we continue to make wine. And the wine was going before the pandemic started. We had it in the barrels and it doesn't stop. So we continue to do that. And we bottled. We started bottling during the pandemic. And through the pandemic, we've now bottled 2,200 bottles. That's a little over 180 cases. So we've kept moving. And now we're ready for everybody to start coming back to the tasting room and start tasting.
Go ahead, Doc.
No, I was just going to say, I never entered my mind that wine would not be an essential business. That's like a given, isn't it?
It is a given. Let me tell you, during the pandemic, it certainly is a given.
You know what I find interesting about the whole wine and winery, because once again, I have to give you credit, Doc. This is one of those areas in which you helped me evolve, because I'm not per se a wine guy. I'm better than I used to be, but I just found it interesting, over the years that I have traveled, you hear about wine and you think of Napa Valley, I've done those tours and you do those type of things, but the amount of wineries in the South and specifically in Georgia, but doing one so close to us that I was just kind of fascinated that we actually had a winery that's close to us. And then talking to Pamela, even I guess the winemaker himself it was just such an interesting story. It's really like a winery in our backyard. And I just thought that was very interesting that, we have a lot of things in Georgia that sometimes I think you may feel like we have to leave to find when they actually are here in our backyard. And so I just thought it was an interesting story. And Pam, if you would, just the winemaker himself, I was very interested in how, you two met, and actually the award-winning, I guess it's a winemaker. I don't know what you call him. That just it's local. It's not like it's somebody from out of town. It's just a local gentleman who does that.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, John Bowen is my director of winemaking. He is incredible. He is an award-winning winemaker. He's got 12 medals behind him, several gold medals. He is just fabulous. He is local here. He's been making wine for quite a while. And really, it's an interesting story how John and I came together and joined forces in this. But he's an amazing winemaker. And so he's gotten us on track with this.
Well, is he? Where did he learn his craft? Is he?
He learned.
I
He
don't
learned
think
his.
that's something
Yeah.
you can learn here, but maybe it is.
Well, the story, I mean, I don't want to, get too ahead of myself here, but the way the whole story happened was we backdoored into this winery the whole way. It's just been, I've called it a God thing is what it is, because the story is so interesting how it came about. But the way John and I actually met is after I had begun the winery process, and I can share that story with you in a little bit. Problem was, I didn't know anything about making wine. And so I was kind of in this situation, well, what do I do now? And a friend of mine and a friend of John's, it was a mutual friend, John and I didn't know each other. This mutual friend said to me, he goes, well, I know this guy that makes some wine in his basement, and he might be able to help you a little bit. And I'm thinking, oh, great, just what I want. I don't want to meet this guy that just makes some wine in his basement. But our friend Rick, he sent us one of those joint emails where you have to respond to it or else you're really rude. And so I did, and John kind of felt the same way. We learned later. He invited me up to his house, to his basement, to see what he was doing. And I went up. It was a Saturday morning, like at 10 o'clock in the morning. And he and his wife were there. Debbie's his wife, lovely woman. And I went down into the basement where he makes wine. Oh my gosh, this wasn't a basement. This was the most magnificent wine cellar I have ever seen. All crafted wood, which John did himself, and all these metals. And I'm thinking, this isn't just some guy who makes wine in his basement. He's been making wine for years and really, truly a master craftsman at it. And then what John did is he went into his little room there that he has, the refrigerated room, which we have one now here as well. And he walks out with 2 glasses and he puts them down in front of me because he wanted to see if I really knew anything about wine. And he puts them in front of me. He goes, okay, I want you to tell me now which one is the best. And he said, one of them is my wine. And the other one I got at Costco. And I'm like, oh my gosh, don't do this to me. This is horrible. But the thing was, it was night and day difference, total night and day difference. There was very clearly one wine which was far superior than the other. And problem is, though, I didn't know whether it was John's or whether it was Costco's. And I was honest. I said which one I thought was the best, and I picked John's. We joined forces then. It was just an amazing way this whole thing came about. And we have been incredibly successful in the last year. We're only a little over a year old, and we have already bottled 2,200 bottles of wine, getting ready to send some of our own wine off to competition so we can get a few more medals behind us, I hope.
Well, I was looking at the website, and I want to ask you some questions about the business itself, but and what Greg was alluding to, I think is quite true. And I don't know how many wineries there are, but I know just in North Georgia there are quite a few. There's one I know in Cartersville, which is very close to us, but there are quite a few throughout the North Georgia area, different
I happen to know
sizes.
the answer to that. We have just, as far as bonded farm wineries go, we have roughly right around 40 bonded farm wineries in Georgia, one of which I am. So it's not very many.
No, but it's more than most people might realize are there. You know, if they think of wine as something that's imported or from California, they don't think that there are that many even in Georgia. I would think. Um, but I was looking at your website, and it features three different wines. Is that what you are focusing on right now?
Well, that is what we have bottled right now. We've got about 12 varietals going on in barrels. So right now, what we have produced and bottled is a red blend that we have named Pedro. We have a Chardonnay and a Rosé that we have bottled. But we have coming out, hopefully bottling sometime toward the end of summer. We've got a Cabernet Sauvignon that we'll be bottling, a Malbec that we'll be bottling, and then it'll be a few months later after that we've got Cab Franc, Syrah, Petite Syrah, and a Merlot coming out. So we've got a whole lot. And then we're bringing in the Cab Sauv grapes. So we'll be doing, I'm sorry, not the Cab Sauv, the Sauvignon Blanc grapes and a Grenache that we'll be doing as well. So right now, all we have bottled and ready to go are those three. But we got a lot coming down the line.
And are these all grapes that are grown on your farm, or are you having to bring some in as well?
Well, currently we're having to bring all of our grapes in because since we're only a little over a year old, our vineyards are only roughly about that old too. The vineyards are closer to 2 years old, but we probably won't have our own harvest here for another 2 years, maybe 3. So everything we get right now is outsourced, and all of our white grapes, the Chardonnays, and the Sangiovese, which is not a white grape, but those are all coming from Georgia, vineyards in Georgia. And our other reds thus far we bring them in from Sonoma County.
So I was very interested to see that your rosé is a Sangiovese based rosé. That's new to me. I have not seen a rosé made from that grape before. Do you know if that's an unusual choice?
It's very unusual. No, I hadn't heard of a Sangiovese rosé either. And so it was new to me as well. But oh my goodness, it is the best rosé you will taste. That actually is our number one selling wine right now. It's not sweet. When you think of rosés, most people think of sweet wines. It is very dry. It is very light, and it is perfect for this time of year. And that Sangiovese grape is superior for a rosé.
Now, wait a minute. Before you ask your next question, I just want to go back to what I said, that this was going to be your show today, because I knew once we got into this, you weren't going to be able to stop. So I'm enjoying this because I'm learning a lot. And that's one thing I like about the Painted Horse, is that whenever I've been there, Pamela has been so willing to, give history and give many lessons to me. So yeah, go ahead and keep asking your questions, but I just wanted to say I knew it was going to be your show today.
Well, I'm curious at this point in a very young business. Are you producing enough to sell outside of the winery, or are most of your sales there inside the winery?
Well, currently, everything we've done is inside the winery. We are ready and to go out. I don't want to go into any of the big shops. I'm not going to do that. But the smaller local wine shops, several restaurants have reached out. I will go that direction. But I don't want to be in a grocery store or any of the big box wine stores, because to me, we are totally handcrafted and we are artisan, and I think that lends to a special atmosphere. So I want to keep us kind of elite, if I can put it that way.
Well, we're coming up on our break, So stay with us. We've got a lot more discussion to come. We'll be right back after this.
Your life is filled with opportunities to show the world you can take charge. It's waking up each day with a mission. It's working each day toward a goal. It's choosing to rise. It's charging forward with a purpose. It's changing the course of your life and taking charge of your future. If you're ready to be a take charger, enroll at Georgia Highlands College today.
Welcome back to Community Watch, and today we're talking about wine in I'm going to say, somewhat local winery. And we're joined by Pamela Jackson from the farms at Pamela. And before we went on break, we was talking about the different wines you're producing, the grape harvesting. But I would like to go back, Pamela, and talk a little bit about prior to the winery, the farm at Pamela, because it is a farm, as you were saying earlier. So it's not like this just is a 1-year-old, 2-year-old project. You actually have a history at the farm long before the winery.
Yeah, long history before. The farm is Farm at Pamela. I've been running for 25 years, little over 25 years now. It is a working farm. We've bred, we board, we teach, we train, we run summer camp all summer long. In fact, we've got summer camp going on today. We've got, of course, the horses and the goats and the bunnies, and we got a cow coming this week. So the farm is very definitely a working farm. We also have an apiary. But the way that the winery part came about was a little over 2 years ago, I guess. How do I like to say this? I went through, let's just say, a major life change. And in dealing with that major life change, the way that I emotionally dealt with it, I mean, doesn't everyone just go out and hook their plow up to their tractor and go and rip a field? And so that's literally what I did. In fact, I still have my grandfather's 1950 Ford 8-inch tractor. It just turned 70. It still runs, and that's the tractor I use. And my guys at the farm have other tractors, but I hooked my plow up to that tractor, and I just went out into one of my pastures, and I just started ripping the ground, which is so cathartic. I mean, it was when you get the hum of the engine of the motor of the tractor going on, and it's just a time where you can work with yourself. And so anyway, that is kind of how it started. Didn't really have a plan in mind as to really what I was doing, but for 3 days I plowed. And at the end of that, when I finally stopped the tractor, I get off and I look at this pasture I had totally destroyed, but it was well plowed at that time, and thought, so now what am I going to do with this? And I thought, I kind of had this romantic idea about vineyards because I've traveled through France and Italy, and we've done a lot of the wineries through there. So I thought, I'm going to plant grapes, which I did. And I planted over 300 grapevines myself. I did all of it myself. So all the planting and the grapevines, and it was really a cathartic time for me to do that. But then after I had all the grapevines planted, I did the same thing. I looked at it and said, okay, now I got a vineyard. What am I going to do with that? And then I decided, I guess I needed a winery. So I started the process and the application as far as the winery goes, and I got that all accomplished. And that is where John comes in. That's where we pick up the rest of the story. So now I have vineyards and I have a winery, but I know nothing about making wine, or I knew nothing about making wine. Let me tell you, John's a great teacher too. And so I am a vintner at this point, not like John, but it was, then I said, so what am I going to do now that I don't know anything about making wine? And that is when John and I met. So that's how the winery kind of came about. People tell me, don't tell people you didn't know what you were doing. But the truth is, I had no clue what I was doing. I have just I've flown by the seat of my pants this whole time. And it's worked well.
Well, I'm thinking that having had the working farm for so long prepared you in a lot of ways for what you're doing now with the wine business. So it's not like you came into it totally without experience. So
No, I didn't come into. No, I am a farmer by trade, going way back, and my grandfather had that tractor because he farmed as well. Of course, what we farmed was different. He was a zoysia grass farmer, and of course, we had all the other produce and stuff. But farming is farming, and so that has been in my blood, and I know farming, and so yes, no, I went into it with farming experience.
And you mentioned you have an apiary on the farm as well.
We do, and that's rather new, and it's interesting. We had a huge tree that was dead, and we needed to have cut down. And when they cut it down, in the top of the tree was a huge honeybee hive up there with honeycomb and honey. And I called a beekeeper out, and because I wanted to save it, and we were able to save the entire colony. She found the queen. That was a real interesting process. And then moved them to another part of the farm where we now have the apiary. So we were able to save that entire colony and that queen. And I've also purchased other colonies and queens. So we, at this point, will produce probably about 100 pounds of honey a year, which we will also bottle. And we're talking about maybe doing some mead as well.
Well, that's great. We've actually done a show about bees and some of the challenges of beekeeping. So it's great that you are doing that as well. So it sounds like got a lot of different things going on up there.
We do, and one of the things, and Greg kind of mentioned this about learning so much. We are very educational all the way through from the farm, because when we have the kids come out to the farm, they learn about the animals and the goats and the bees, and we have bee suits for the children, and on up even into the rose garden and the herb garden. I love to take the younger children into the herb garden and pinch off little pieces of herbs and tell them, put it in your mouth, give it a taste. So we're teaching all along the way, and we're doing that with adults as well, because if you come to the winery, John is usually there, and John is such a fabulous teacher as well. He'll take you into the winemaking rooms and into the refrigerated rooms, and you're going to get a lesson on making wine just by coming to the winery. We've also actually taught winemaking classes. When we got in our last shipment from Sonoma, we did a week-long class where you came in and you actually worked to make the wine. It was a week-long class. So,
and I can attest that John will take you in the back and give you a demonstration and let you see some of the steps involved. So I'm just looking forward, because I know me and you will be going, Doc. So I know we going. But when I'm thinking about the farm, Pam, it's called a painted horse. And if you could briefly talk about that, because it's very unique, and even the wines you're bottling, that theme has kind of gone along into the bottling itself. But how did you come about with the name, the painted horse?
Well, and I've got a bottle here. Can I just show you the logo on it? Can you see that? That's our painted horse logo right there. So your question is, how did we get the name Painted Horse? Well, because the farm has been running for 25 years, we do about 5 to 6 birthday parties a weekend. And when you come to the Painted Horse and you do an event here, or to the farm at Pamelot, and you do an event here, we paint our horses. So the children get to paint the horses, and that is how we got the name Painted Horse. Of course, it's all non-toxic. One year, for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, we dyed all of our white horses pink with Kool-Aid. It doesn't hurt them at all. So that was a real interesting thing to do, because we put them up near the street, the pink horses, and you would drive along and see the pink horses. But we're known for painting our horses. That is one of the things. Right now, the camp kids are probably out there painting a horse right now.
I knew you would enjoy that story, Doc.
I want to think about that a little bit. That's I've got some mental pictures of it, kind of. I'm surprised that the horses put up with that, but I guess they're used to it now.
Oh yes, they're very used to it. Misty, one of our horses here, who's been here, we've had her 24 years now. She's been being painted for roughly 24 years. I mean, that's second nature to her. Of course, horses get painted. Don't all horses get painted? I mean, our animals work here. They have a job to do. They've got to earn their keep.
Yeah, true. I'm curious. So with the winery, Pamela, so where do you want to go? Because I know now you have wine tastings, you have live music on certain days, but where do you see the Painted Horse Winery? Where do you see that in the future?
Well, we've already talked about that a great deal, and we do have a board that we've put together that is working with us. Right now, our winery, as you've seen, Greg, it's small. It's a very small, and everything is totally handcrafted. Of the 2,200 bottles we bottled, they went through one at a time, both of our hands, both John and my hands, to get those bottled. We have the plan, 5-year plan is what it has been, of building a bigger winery facility on the property. We've already located it, and we pretty much know what we want to do. But we were asked by the board just this past weekend, and it kind of started, things ticking here. Why are we waiting 5 years? And I guess one of the reasons I guess we were waiting 5 years, or I was waiting 5 years, was because I needed to know that we could do this first. We're only a year old. But then I look back and I go, oh my goodness, we have bottled 2,200 bottles, and we have all these other varietals that are getting ready to come out. Well, we've done it. We've proven. And it's good wine. It is awesome wine. And it's selling like crazy. So we've proven it. So, I mean, our plan may be moving a little faster to build a larger winery facility here on the property.
Tell us a little bit about the tastings. Are they going on now, or were you having to slow that down a bit?
Well, of course, when the shutdown happened, the tasting room did have to be closed. I mean, the rest of the farm ran, and we continued bottling and doing all that, but the tasting room did close down. We reopened the tasting room a couple of weeks ago, and so the tasting started again. We have several. We're only open to the public on Saturdays and Sundays, although we're open 7 days a week. We do events and we do barrel tastings and things during the week. If you just come into the tasting room and you just walk in, we do tastings with you. You can taste the wines. And that's a rather simple thing. We explain the wine and tell you about it, and you get a taste of it. We also do the barrel tastings, which are actually events you sign up for. They're about 2 hours long, and you will taste every wine we have made here, the ones that aren't even bottled yet. We pull the wine, you go into the refrigerated room with us, and we pull straight from the barrel and put it in your glass and allow you to taste it at all the various different stages. Like I said, our Cab Sauv and our Malbec, we are going to be bottling soon. So it's really ready. It is a finished wine product pretty much at this point. So you get to taste that, but we also have the wines that are about 3 weeks old now at this point. And we let you taste the 3-week-old wine too. And we explain the process of fermentation and then malolactic fermentation. And you get to learn all that and taste. So the barrel tastings themselves are a significant, a long event. We keep them very small. We keep them about 10 people because we want it to be interactive and we want you to be able to really experience it. So we do small groups when we do that, but it's fun and you get to taste a lot.
Yeah. Well, we're almost out of time, but I wanted to mention your website, which I thought was had a lot of good information on it. And that website is paintedhorsewinery.com. Is that correct?
Yeah. We had to put the in there, so it is thepaintedhorsewinery.com.
All right. So folks can check out that website and get a lot of good information. We appreciate you being with us today. And,
well, I appreciate you having me.
Greg, we'll have to make a plan.
Got you.
Thank you all for being with us on Community Watch. We'll see you next time.